Hey, it's Chris. What are we talking about? Crowdfunding roundup. All the new games that you need to know. Tons and tons of new ones this week. Money being thrown around. High 6 digits, high 5 digits. A plethora of mechanics and thematic incorporations across the freaking board. You ready? Well, I had hands on 2 of them. If you missed those videos from earlier this week, go check them out. But that over. Let's do this. Freaking go. Let's start with Distilled and the Cocktails expansion here. $372,000, and where we have another big box collector's edition coffin style decision that you have to make. Is this one of your favorite games? Well, then you can get this expansion to offer more and more variability that the base game already had a plethora of. I will make the argument that this is probably one of the best Euro games of the last couple years. But I would also make the argument that the base game had tons and tons more than you probably needed in the first place. The first expansions offered even more, and this is giving you even more. But I also have to give a lot of kudos at the top of this page. And at first I read this and I thought this was 450 components for all of Distilled combined. No, 450 components for just the freaking expansion. But why I like this page and why I always harp on this is no hiding. This is no, what's going on with this game? What's going on with this expansion? Why should I get this expansion? Frickin' Paverson put it on the top and said, smack you in the face. Here you go. Double washbacks, double barreling to distill your spirits. More different things you can craft in the first place in the form of cocktails. More collector's endgame scoring asymmetry tokens. And then global demands as well as a promo pack. 21 card mini expansion allowing you to fast track and simulate. I love this actually, skipping the first round. Because as I've said, as I saw years and years ago talking about games like this, if you're doing the same or very similar every single game in the first round, or everyone is doing the same thing, skip it. Skip it, go on. So I love the year 1 style of things. And if you go down further in the page, you actually see, even though the Mixologist, which is right above my head here, this pledge level of $49, is considered the retail edition, on the little chart that breaks down what the pledge levels are going to give you, you are getting this promo pack. So that is your incentive, which is pretty decent actually in that regard, to back it on crowdfunding. Otherwise, it's going to jump you up to the $100 pledge level to get the collector's class, which again is the retail edition of this, with the little bit of extras, with the deluxeifications, with the deluxe custom collector's box. So that is what you've got. You can still get $300 if you want to spend $300 on this thing, and you can talk about it all you want ad nauseum. Man vs. Meeple has got it there, and all the deluxeifications with the inserts that are going to go along with this, and everything you want to see from a preview standpoint. Base game rule book, expansion rule book, and a little bit of content galore. All their previous stuff as well, including the more recently delivered and acclaimed Luther, and all of the original add-ons. So campaign calendar. Ooh, campaign calendar. When are we supposed to get this? Oh, ooh, dang, this is a year out? I did not realize that. Okay, Distilled. Go listen to everybody else. Ooh, taxes and shipping are going to be what they're going to be. So that might be the biggest make it or break it, especially if you're overseas and not in North America. But that's enough, because there's plenty of information on how good this game is out in the first place. Just, do you need more variability? Spellrift freaking Legends. $500,000 from Dragori. I covered this earlier in the week from them. It's their take on an open world-esque Slay the Spire type vibe. And what you're doing is you're taking your asymmetric character, combo chaining and upgrading with a deck building mechanic to venture across in an Eldritch Horror-esque self-described way, closing portals until you can make it to fight the enemy, the big boss at the end, and then win. It takes a Gloomhaven-esque type approach with the dual use cards that not only are, well, actually I should say multi-use cards, because you can play them as the attack, you can play them as an instant, you can also play them as an exploit, which is like a passive upgrade as you're going along. And there is a hell of a lot of asymmetry between these characters, even I think the 4 that I had in the base game. The prototype is actually right behind the camera right now. I haven't even moved it out of this room to where I store them in a completely separate area, so I actually have room in this room in the first place. Devin knows how small this room is from Board Game Hype. He was over at my house a couple weeks ago for Grand Con, and I showed him how small this room was, and he's like, you weren't joking. Anyway, so what you have, though, is an incredible amount of decision making, and that is probably the biggest boon of this game as a whole, is that the decision making when it comes to these cards is the most amazing thing that you're really, really, really going to love. It might be a little off-putting if anyone in your group has analysis paralysis, because at the multiplayer count, you all have to go around and do your own thing. So at the solo, one or two-handed style, it may be more of your preferred gamer count unless you can deal with other players like that at your table. Let's see what else we got here, because you have not only one-off gameplays, you have a campaign mode, and you have your unique characters. So I would make the argument, like I did in my video, that I don't think this is open world, because you still have that Eldritch horror style, Arkham horror, pandemic style vibe where you have to go and like close these portals, or more bad stuff is going to happen as you're going through these regions. Each of these regions has its own unique event deck, and you're going to be mixing and matching not only apparently the tiles, because you can do that, but you can also flip them over like you just saw there. And yes, truly asymmetric. Truly using, upgrading, gathering experience, and battling along the way. I'm not sure miniatures are necessary. I actually might prefer, as I said in my video as well, the chip theory style of just deluxe chips, because I think they take up a lot of space on this board, because you kind of need to see what's underneath them and where things are going in that way. Because also some of the enemies, either have the cards to go along with the miniatures, or the cards to go along with those tokens. And so it wouldn't be, a bad thing at all if you just did the chip theory thing and put it all right on the chip that way and put them right in there. It'd also take a hell of a lot less storage as well. But Dragori is known for their great miniatures, and that's what you're seeing here in these renderings. So dual purpose, I talked about that. Variable enemies, you roll a die to indicate what action they're going to be taking or what armor they're going to be having, and they're going to be color coded based on the die that you're rolling, and you're going to have to potentially take them out in a certain order so that you can mitigate what they've got going on. So that's what you're getting from Dragori here. Is this your vibe as a whole? Again, this one is actually going to be a year out at this point as well. It says August of 2026. Now, I only had 4 of these characters to start off with, so yeah, this is kind of a little bit more variability, hopefully, in the base game as well as the expansions. But let's skip down to the rewards and the pledge level here. $299 is getting you Dracula as the extra. That is a heck of a lot of money, but that's a heck of a lot of extra packs, because you're getting boss packs, hero packs, special monster packs, campaign box packs, dice trays. So this is all the deluxeifications, and a storage box to go with it. $129 though gets you just the core. So again, it's about what I'd expect for a miniature based core game. You get 6 heroes, 1 large boss, 3 medium bosses, because that's really what you're looking at there when you're starting to compare some of the add-ons. And I'm assuming this is most of, yes, gameplay. So $50 is the difference between all of the gameplay and the collector's everything in that sense. And they're giving you a few add-ons there to go along with it. But what do the actual add-ons give you in terms of content here? So each of the bosses in that light gives you 2 additional unique asymmetric, how they're going to operate on the board with their AI system. The hero packs give you 3 additional asymmetric heroes in the forms of, again, other people that you're known from history. And so that's what it's going to be focusing on. And it's kind of a choose your own. Do you really want those other ones? Are they going to be as good? Are they going to be as unique? And with something like this, it's potentially doubling the number of heroes that you have. So having 6 in the base game is probably more than what you need. And so I'd make the argument probably going for the enemy and the bosses might be more interesting in that regard as well. Components, hero packs, bosses that we talked about, extra monsters. That one might not be a bad thing as well, giving you 9 different monsters in addition. So 4 different attacks that we talked about, or additional ways of moving them along. Campaign add-on, again, I worry about that as an unlocking, because it does also require you to have both boss pack additions, and that's not inexpensive, and I'm not sure I'm a fan of that. I understand why you did it. That's for someone who's really loving the game, so I guess I'm glad that it's not included in the core pledge, because otherwise I'd worry about the core pledge feeling like it was complete, or even the price of that core pledge could be significantly higher. Item decks evolving, world tiles permanently removed. Okay, interesting. Branching gameplay content. Again, I feel weird and mixed about branching gameplay content nowadays too, because that means inevitably you're paying for content that you might not use, but take that for what you will. And it isn't too bad of a setup. It isn't too bad of a setup. I'll agree with that, actually. Although I wonder whether or not miniatures are going to be something that you would want from that aspect too. So, hey, there's my video. I wasn't expecting it to be on the page. So anyway, there you go. That's all the art. That's everything else. And that's what we've got. And it's got $500,000. So figure out whether or not it's right for you, or watch my video and help you decide even further. Hey, Chibakoya, I got your game. I'm sorry I haven't responded to your email yet, but I will be covering this one in the very near future as well, hopefully in the next week or so. This is the Garden Trilogy, right? Uchiba Koya's bread and butter. They have absolutely killed this thing previously on crowdfunding with Aqua Garden. Now they're coming back with the new sort of prettier version of Aqua Garden. At least it's prettier to me. And you're getting Sky Garden and Dino Garden. But again, I'm going to give kudos like I did to Paverson. They're flat out saying, these are the differences between the games. Here you freaking go. Aqua Garden 2 simple. However, we have 2 step-ups for you in a different direction. It's not just the creatures that are freaking different. This is probably the biggest game raising and well-acclaimed from Asia. I would make the argument from a publisher over there, period. Dinosaurs, birds, and fish. That's what you're getting. And 60 to 90 minutes. And I love this sort of, it's not a rondel, but I always call it a rondel. This move whoever is in the furthest behind on the track to wherever you want. Sort of like a Glenmore Chronicles situation. I love Glenmore Chronicles 2. I can't get that thing to the table enough to justify owning it though. But if you're looking at this, this is one of the also the few projects that I would say hands down, flat out, period. If you want this game, it will be inevitably cheaper on crowdfunding than the secondary market. It will also be cheaper than getting it from retail later, because there really hasn't been a wide distribution from North America standpoint, at least, since the previous crowdfunding adventures. So this is where you're going to want to get it and get any portion of it, true, right? I like this pricing. I like that it's not like significantly higher and you're getting a little discount. Now, I always say though, you're buying more and you're still paying more, right? So you get the one that strikes your fancy. I'd make the argument this reminds me in a way of Finspan, Wingspan, and Wormspan, in the sense you've got 3 overlapping, overarching commonalities, but still the premise being the same, but the how they accomplish it being different. And I love that. And it just gives you a whole bunch of stuff here. So what you're getting, and these meeples are freaking awesome. These might be some of the best meeples I have ever seen on a board game, period. I can't speak to the insert. I can't speak to this, but it's fully compatible with the first one. Similarly, it's a choose your own for the details of the expansions. And I like the fact that like, just click here because it'll pull up the Google Drive and give you the rundown. The promotion pack, which again has not been easy to get on the secondary market whatsoever. Sky giving you the birds, again, freaking awesome meeples, as well as dinosaurs. Like, I feel like I just have to get the dinosaur game just to appease my 5-year-old who is obsessed with anything in that line of things. Dino expansion? Ooh, Dilophosaurus, Carnotaurus, Allosaurus, Dimetrodon. I know so many different dinosaur names because my 5-year-old is obsessed with dinosaurs. We have a book of like 300 pages downstairs in his bed that gets often read through, that he has memorized, that even does the fights and the stat. Anyway, so I'm getting distracted here. But they all act in different ways. They all score in different ways. And they say right here, they're more intricate and more compelling strategy to the solid gameplay that's offered. Each expansion offers tokens and additional ways of playing. And Sky Garden, again, gives you the habitats, the pairing of the birds, and the nesting to go along with it. So it says right here, simple, arrange birds for mating and reproduction, supply chain management. So I will hopefully have my thoughts on which one I prefer or the things I prefer about each of them. And I like this because this is exactly where the gaming group and family situation that I am in, it's accessible enough for family. You can play it with frickin' anybody. Because, again, you do the from behind, move it up, take whatever you want, go rinse and repeat in that way. Gain your fish, gain your aquariums, host the events, and watch out for the bad guys. Then you're laying the eggs, gaining the birds, forming the pairs, and getting milestone achievements along the way. Like I mentioned, you're gaining, you're producing, you're delivering. Now this is going to be more complex in delivery, and then the bonuses that go along with it. There's plenty of other people to give you a little bit more insight into that. And again, rule books straight from the source right here. Here's that expansion thing I was mentioning earlier, the beachcombing as well as the asymmetric different types that are going to be available to you in all of them, so you get a little nice snapshot all in one picture. Now, one thing that when we pull up the rule book here for Sky Garden, you start to see that this is color chips based on where you're landing, taking the actions of the corresponding color, meaning only the green ones here are the bird chips will allow you to add your bird token to your aviary. You have events, you have additional movements. Then as we go down here, you can see at the end, it changes a little bit of the scoring dynamics with the pairings of these 6 different areas that you were trying to do: eggs, milestones, events, and standby tracks. Now, this is slightly different because if we go back up to the beginning page, and reminder, this rulebook is only 8 pages. Dinosaur Garden is actually only 10 pages as well, including these 2. Bonus for milestones that you're achieving and milestone tiles that you'll be dealing with. And why that matters is because when we pull up Dino Garden here, you have predator track boards, 4 different ones that fall into 3 different categories with obviously the 3 different types of bonuses that you're used to seeing, right? Ongoing, immediate, and end game scoring as you're passing them along. The difference in Dino Garden, if we scroll down here, is that you have, again, different chips that are going to be available to you, but the herbivores and the carnivores are going to be interacting with the meat in different ways. The carnivorous dinosaurs prey on meat tokens within the same area. The herbivore dinosaurs produce meat tokens. And why that matters is because subsequently, you're going to be moving this feeding token to transport meat between areas in order to, well, feed the dinosaurs that you need to feed. You're then subsequently, after they are fed, advancing your predator marker along that track, the number of meat tokens moved. So all in all, I think this is actually relatively reasonably priced. Like I mentioned, you're getting a little bit of special stuff along the way. And so this is really, honestly, one of the better deals that you can consistently say. Is it for you? Is it really that freaking good? I mean, that's where you're going to have to watch some of this other stuff. And wow, there's tons of other people, you know, that already have content on there that you can watch. So you can wait for mine or go check out Cardboard East. He does a great freaking fantastic job. By the way, Cardboard East, you totally got me to buy a game that's sitting right down here on my side of the table that I am doing and showing off in an upcoming video. You got me to buy it from Japan and import it. I do not like you, sir. You're showing me too many good things, and it might rhyme with Ornado Plash. It's called Tornado Splash. It's jet skiing. Anyway, wait. But anyway, though, this is what you're getting. Tons of content. Aqua Garden's a known quantity already. So if this wasn't enough for you, check out this, check out Ostia, and give it a look-see. Tell them Luigi sent you. Dino Island, fully charged. We'll just stay with the dinosaur theme, right? Pandasaurus is back at it. I told you with the news video a couple weeks ago that this was coming. I just didn't realize it was coming that soon. And this is the definitive edition, as they are saying, of all of the deluxifications. The biggest issue I've seen is multiple people talking about this and covering it is some of the production issues that they've had. And again, like, I have not gotten any Pandasaurus games really on crowdfunding. All of my pickups have been retail and mostly small box games. So those have been mostly fine. I can't really speak to it, but that is what you see in some of the quality control issues with this. And there's always an inevitable comparison to something like Dinogenics, which is another typical worker placement game with a dino theme. And this is more of your dino with a tableau builder as well that they also redid in the form of Dinosaur World. I can't really speak to how good this game is or not. Some people really like it. Some people prefer one of those other ones that I just mentioned. So the bottom line of it, though, is like they say here, this is the gameplay change. Score your victory points. Change the DNA, change the meeples, so you're going to try and make them all look better. And this gives you all of those little details. But again, like, as someone who's not familiar with the game, I don't know how, much this is actually changing it. So hopefully this addresses some of those criticisms that are there in the first place with it not being what people wanted. So I like that. Okay, new upgrade kit as well, but it's a pretty bare bones page here. So that's what you get, and it's got all the info just in a text form. So I actually don't mind that. A little bit of shorter page isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's the question of whether or not you need this edition, and $40 for an upgraded or $150 for everything. Wow, that's not a whole lot of difference there. You can't necessarily piecemeal it, but I guess check it out. Enough people are doing it. It's got 180,000, which is impressive. Then, if you didn't think sheep are the apex predator, well, I have some news for you. By the way, I have a kids book where they talk about the squirrels being these super good geniuses. It's a great kids book. But anyway, squirrels are super geniuses. Don't mess with them. But we're talking about the sheep, which is, I didn't realize, a cooperative game. And now you've intrigued me intensely, because what you're doing is you are managing the passage of caravans across the board during a day-night phase situation as you're taking unique abilities, attacking the sheep, and ultimately trying to fend them off enough so you can get all the caravans across the board before they are corrupted to a certain extent or there is too much pollution. And in the day-night phase, the situation, you are going to have as well events that happen each round, each time you're doing it. The caravans are going to try and progress a certain amount, 2 spaces if they're able to, but if sheep are left in their way, they are going to progress less than that. You will have lanterns in order to avert pollution. You will have abilities and manipulation as well as, well, just some take that against some bloodthirsty sheep. 6 unique shepherds to increase your chances of winning with an asymmetric standpoint, and cooperative gameplay without a turn order style as you're taking your abilities and your card play in the day phase and then subsequently having the sheep mutate and try and corrupt more of your caravans at nighttime. I'm really glad they have meeples instead of miniatures. I think it fits the aesthetic and the vibe so much better. And I'm really glad there's not overcrowded with plastic. They run you through a little bit of all of what I just said here, using your equipment, your traits, and your curses to stop them from getting the caravans, begin and go until you lose some caravans or you make it to the end. I don't need a sheep plushie. My kids are getting into plushies still, but $59 is lot more reasonable than I expected. Okay, that's kind of cool. So I don't know how widely this one's going to be available. Yeah, it's deluxeifications for stretch goals, but you know, it might be one of those where you can't get it a whole lot elsewhere, so give it a look-see if you like cooperatives like me. Now we're talking Pathfinder. Yeah, the Pathfinder folks are bringing us this cooperative Pathfinder Quest game without a GM. No endless prep, just adventure in a box. It's got almost $400,000. Pathfinder is a huge IP, and I have no freaking clue about this game whatsoever. The first Pathfinder Arena game I actually covered years ago, and it was underwhelming in how you were maneuvering and changing the tiles and doing that sort of thing. And they're basically saying this is like a Dungeons and Dragons Pathfinder-esque, anything along those lines. Build your character, get their ancestry, their class, their ability cards pre-built if you're so lazy. And you have 12 quests to go in a campaign situation, each lasting 2 hours. Teach as you go, rich narrative included. Some sort of dungeon crawl-esque, but do you want to know what you're actually doing besides supposedly incorporating the use of an adventure book into the town and the group's effort and dynamics and narrative and combat lurking around the corner, gaining spells, feats, and abilities? Well, the truth is that there's not really any way of knowing. There's a deluxe edition and there's the regular edition with standees here. And do you want to know more about it? Well, I can't tell you anything because there's really no rule book whatsoever. So I have no idea. I have no idea, and I'm shocked that a lot of people are pledging this because I feel like it has to be for the miniature level where they're getting the miniatures and people are going to say, I'm going to play Pathfinder, I'm going to play D&D and use the miniatures anyway. So if there's a game in here, well, you can do that too. But again, I think they look like cool miniatures, but I don't have a freaking clue, right? Yeah, stretch goals, extra content, a few random preview things. Let's build a character. I don't want to build a character. I want the gameplay action mechanisms like I talk about every time. What sets your dungeon crawl-esque game apart from others? I have none of that. None of that on this page. So that's my problem with this. And I think it looks like it could be something, but I can't go off of potential anymore when the price is triple digits. But, I mean, it's got a lot of money and it's got a lot of days to go, so give it a look. Stop it, Kickstarter, you're drunk. Not your ordinary mystery puzzles here, because the twist is that the picture you're given is not the picture that you're actually going to be building, like it says right here. There's going to be slight variations with, like, the disco ball and that. So, 15 seconds after the image on the box. Okay, so that's interesting. Like, I like the concept of this, but I could see this also just driving people crazy. Like, oh, this should be there, and it's freaking not. I mean, it's a cool concept, though. So, something different, and I think that's why it's got so much money. Ooh, 3 minis and 3 puzzles, $75. What's individual, though? Okay, so basically buy a bunch and save a little bit. No minis, though, gets you 3 puzzles for $59. $3.59. Okay, that's not terrible, though. I mean, a good puzzle at retail, even if I go to my local convenience store, isn't going to be too much less than $20. Probably like 10 to 15, but I don't know. Do you redo puzzles? I don't redo puzzles, at least in our family. It's like a female thing in my wife's side of the family. Like, her and her mom and her sister-in-law are like super big, and like we'll join in occasionally, but they have like actually the puzzle boards. So I could see it going either way, but I mean, $20 for a puzzle? Okay. Give it a look-see. Did you know there was another KeyForge launching? I didn't have a freaking clue. Actually, you know what? I might have. Who knows? But Draconian measures from Ghost Galaxy. Going back to this at 150 grand for the 5th KeyForge Game Found campaign. And legendary creatures, right? Legendary creatures ruling the sky. And the Crucible is giving you a landscape filled with, well, things that resemble dragons. I love this. More than 300,000 millennia ago. You could just write that in years instead of making that actually those words together. But anyway, this is the 10th iteration of KeyForge, and it's changed forever, 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 forever. I'm just gonna go with that. Again, I see you guys in the comments section. You tell me all the time I should go play KeyForge. I probably should. So, Ouroboros is the new house with ancient dragons, +1 power enhancements, new keywords, and new cards. I don't know. Can you power creep this? Is it all compatible and all good in that way? I have no freaking clue. But yeah, it's a lot of decks discovered. Is that like an active counter? So if I pull this up like a couple hours from now, I'd say it is. It looks like it's... Nope, just kidding. It's a GIF. Nope, just kidding. I thought that was like a real live link. That would be cool. Again, my question for anyone looking at this is just, okay, what about Reaper of Ember here? What about Novus of the Crucible? Which one of these would you go in on? Which one of these sets is going to be the best for someone like me? I'm not concerned about too many keywords. I'm just looking at this and going, which of these mechanics would I like the best? And that's the biggest problem with so much already out there is I don't freaking know. It's like trying to go into Magic the Gathering right now too, right? I've been trying to figure out how to reach out to Wizards of the Coast, but they're too big for me to actually probably have a chance with anyway. So I just look at things like the upcoming, was it Avatar The Last Airbender, or they're releasing the Spider-Man one real soon. But like, which one? Do you just go thematic, or do you actually care about mechanics, and can you tell the difference, at least on the surface? And the trouble with these is sometimes you can't, but that's a lot of money for only 400 people, so kudos there. Just want to give a little shout out mid-video for this one. HeTu Dice Set, Ancient Wisdom Modern Craft. I don't know, they're freaking little turtle shell dice. I think those just look kind of cool, so I don't know. I just thought I'd highlight it really quickly. I have no affiliation with this, and I mean, they're pretty freaking expensive, especially if you didn't get it in the first 2 days, but there you go. Disco Heist Laundry. For some reason in my head, it's one of those games in my head I always want to say at the same time, Disco Laundry Heist. Anyway, but Tableau building Eurogame. This is something I have not really seen before done like this. Rock Manor really has something unique on their hands, and it plays really quickly, almost too quickly, in my opinion. And, oh, look at that! I swear I did not look at this before saying that and mimicking my, well, at least I'm consistent, if nothing else. So, what you've got going on here is you've got asymmetric kingpins who offer your basically leader ability, and at the bottom of these they give you slight asymmetry of your resources and a slight asymmetry here in the one-off abilities, but then you have these little stamp passport things up here that are basically one-time abilities that you can use that are all the same. You have a city board that rotates where things may end up because it's driven by a number of cards in these location tiles that are going to be just placed down randomly at the beginning of the game, and they're rotated because the roads on the sides of these buildings that you're going to be entering is going to matter, because how you're going to move from one to the other with your kingpin as well as your henchmen is going to affect how your tableau is going to be working as you try to go to the places where your heists are labeled by the vault meeples, while still avoiding all of the cops. They're upgraded as they go along, as you unlock more points, and how far and how fast they can get you, arrest you, or deal with the heat as you take your actions that are upgradable, because oftentimes these multi-use cards will give you not only one specific way of using them, but they'll give you an option of, if you take heat, then you get more of it. But you get an action when you play the card, as well as when you tap the card in a Magic the Gathering style, speaking of that. Once it's on your tableau, you can utilize it going back and forth on a turn-by-turn basis, which allows you to gather those resources, hire more crew, manipulate said people on the board in the first place, as well as shake down those buildings that you have area control of, or just a person there, because you don't actually have area control to shake it down. But the end round situation, after you've played a certain number of heists, does do area control, which is probably the one most divisive mechanism that I remember, because then you just kind of lose people if you're battling over the same, and so everyone just loses a person potentially in an area until the last one is standing, which gets you more victory points. But again, the other different victory point condition is not just straight getting victory points, it's actually getting money and then needing to launder that money with an additional card or ability on that tableau in the first place, and translating the money into victory points. So you have cards that will be 1-to-1, as well as cards that will give you more than that, but you also have a limitation of how many you can do potentially with the big heist situation, which again causes you to be very strategic in where your placement is in the first place. Wooden upgrades there, take it for what you will. And, well, everything that I just mentioned along the way. And, as weird as it is, you actually just roll a d20 to determine where the cops are going, but they get in the way, because this board, because you're moving around the sides of these, is actually a lot more crowded than you would expect in that way. So it works out really well, and I was surprised by it in that sense. There you go. That is Rock Manor Games and what they've got going on with Disco Heist Laundry. Not screwing up the name more than once at least. I'm going to talk about this really quickly. Mobile Arms Mecha Wargaming. Because it's mechs and it's Wargaming though. It's Wargaming. So this is what you're getting for a 22 to 38 millimeter skirmish game for 2 or more players, and upgradable mech mayhem. I saw a few other places. I thought I'd just mention it. And they've got some content there, and, well, you can pay a ton of money for it because it's a skirmish game, and all the skirmish games cost a lot of money nowadays. But I just thought I'd throw it in there for the heck of it. Next up, we're talking about Bloodwork, which has $200,000. It's a dark fantasy-themed RPG board game that we've seen tons of, and awesome looking, miniatures. The thing that I can't really figure out, though, as I was talking earlier about expounding the virtues of great pages that tell you what this is doing different, why you should buy this, how this compares to its own games or its competitors, I have absolutely freaking no clue off of this page. And this is just a massive sprawling page of awesome looking design, but I can't tell if this is Etherfields or Oathsworn in that way. And that's the trouble with this. You have tons of things like buildings and contents and fake decks and equipment cards and unique drops from bosses and achievements and specializations and heirlooms that we just mentioned. And you've got 4 extra chapters, I think, of expansions that you can go through in a campaign-linked situation that you can buy that's apart from the base game alone. And you can spend hundreds of dollars to get it. But I look at this and I go, okay, like, what makes this that different? That quote doesn't tell me anything. You get your base stats and proficiencies. Okay, it's an RPG. Why would I get this, which is an unknown, compared to Awakened Realms Lands of Evershade, right? You have plenty of content that's going here, but it looks a little bit like Oathsworn meets Gloomhaven to me. And I just can't tell, right? This is just stuff you're getting content-wise. Round order, fate deck, determine which group activates in which way. And it may seem influenced by the players, but you can forge opportunities to interrupt attacks of the boss and the enemies. So roll that many dice, compare to see if you hit, and multiply to potentially draw the blood card to see if you hit in the first place. So a little bit of KDM or Aeon Trespass thrown in there. But again, like, what separates this in that way? And I don't really want to watch one of the various paid preview videos down below to find that out. I mean, I'd like to see exactly just what this offers on the page this way. Now you have your branching narrative and your quest-based situation. But how is that going to play off? Are these scenarios all different? Are they, as they say, skirmish, choice, trap? What is going to be the breakdown of that? There's a lot of awesome looking graphics here, but the only way you're really going to know is to read this rule book. And this is a 0.2 version of the rule book, which is 74 pages long, which absolutely shows me that they have so much detail in all of these various ways, which is fantastic. But I also wonder, is it overwhelming at the same time? You're doing checks as one of the core concepts, rolling things like D10s. You're having pluses and minuses, meaning there's additional ways to get things or needing a certain number plus or minus in order to achieve that. This is a ton of content. This is a ton of game. This is a lifestyle situation. So again, the argument is not whether or not this could be good, but it's whether or not sometimes you have the bandwidth for it in the first place. So again, it's a lot. And I would make the argument that if you want this, if you are liking the thematic incorporation of this, which truthfully I am, you're going to have to go read this to get some of the nuance and the proficiency to separate it out, because this appears, at least on surface level with a lot of these ways, that this is more D&D RPG-esque in how you're interacting than some of the other comparisons that may be out there, like I made, that a KDM and an Aeon Trespass aren't. This is going to be more maybe Oathsworn meets a little bit of Lands of Evershade. So I know people loved Lands of Evershade in this style, and that's maybe what you should be looking at in this aspect rather than anything else. They give you tons and tons of stuff, but they also say right here, for example, the goal is to kill the leader. There might be alternative objectives that you can use to complete to win besides that, but you're going to be drawing and resolving these cards each round, sort of almost Aeon's End-esque, to determine who's going where. But the blood cards, as I mentioned in an Aeon Trespass Kingdom Death, is where you're going to be hitting and how much damage it's going to be doing based on when you hit it in the first place. And they run you through all of the battle stuff, and there's terrain, buffs, debuffs. So, I mean, they're hitting everything from the RPG side of things that you can. Chapters broken down into the resources and the availability that way. And so again, the depth of this is not lacking. It's just whether or not you're looking at this and saying, I feel like I can spend $400 or somewhere between that and $200 to experience this and to try it out and to know whether or not it's right for me. If that was too much for you, though, we'll go to something a little bit more scaled down, but just as dark and creepy, because Ruinborn Dungeons of Cabora is now funded as well at $47,000. Also a miniature-based RPG-esque dungeon crawl for 1 to 4 players with a deluxe edition, miniatures galore, with a little bit of expansion content if you so choose. Now, apparently you can play this as well with competitive, cooperative, solo, hex-based grid stage setup maps as you are trying to take out the boss if they are finally on the board, achieving quests, collecting souls from enemies defeated along the way with one of these 8 different asymmetric characters that you are taking on the role of as you're going along. You have individual ambitions you can buy and upgrade your character with as you're going. The stage book is separate than the rule book in this hex-based situation. Not only does it affect the actual setup, you're going to be having event cards that will upgrade the stage threat as you're going along the way, that you will be having to deal with the danger that comes along with that in addition. And yes, this rulebook is only 22 pages compared to the 74, so it is going to be a little bit more straightforward, but probably a little bit less nuanced. Not necessarily less asymmetric, though, in terms of the variability, because you still have hundreds and hundreds of different opportunities that you can do. I do wonder, with any game that offers these 3 modes, are all of them going to be created equal? Are all of them going to be what you want out of something like this in the first place, or are you paying extra for that in addition? because invariably you're going to find probably the mode you prefer. Standees, hex tiles, boss cards, 3 bosses in the base game, trap tiles, factions, treasures, all of those sorcery cards, and tons of tokens. Now, what are we getting with the different modes? They do run you through a brief overview of this. Competitive, gather the most souls, and then you're beating the dungeon itself in the other 2 modes. So that's fine. Mischiefs give you 2 additional, so a total of 10. And then I'm assuming, let's see what else we've got down here. Well, nope, just the good guys, it looks like. So, okay, a little bit of deluxifications, a little bit of content to check out, and a little bit easier rule book to read through because it really does make it a little bit streamlined and straightforward. So this one is a much easier, much more straightforward read, but how much complexity do you want, and how much is that going to affect your ability to get it to the table? Well, you know, price point as well. Early Bird is still available for 159 bucks. The base edition, though, again, is still 99 as a whole. So there you go. Terra Rossa, and they're funded, and they're going to be probably even more by the time you guys watch this video, so there you go. So, No More Dead New York from Pendragon Game Studio. Does this art and vibe look familiar? Because this is from the company that brought us Escape from New York, I believe, as well. I believe it was Escape from New York. We'll go with that. And it's a zombie outbreak, but it's an action selection, tactically based, gather cards, area control, resource management style of things as you try and place down unique characters in each of these districts, moving your van along to the next district each turn, so you're placing a new one in each area, trying to get an area control vibe when it's filled up. However, you might try and eliminate your other opponents' characters in that district in order to get the control. However, if too many are eliminated, they turn into zombies every time they're eliminated, so if the zombies win the district, that is also potentially playing into the end game scoring victory conditions as well, because if one player scores 15 points based off of the victory points they're getting from these districts, or if the zombie tracker reaches too low, essentially, or somebody passes it, is really what it is, or the black zombie tracker passes the other one, meaning the zombies are too strong, all of those will set off the end game scoring. You're going to be taking those districts, scoring the points that they are worth. Additionally, there are plenty of actions that you can take as you're placing them. If we scroll down far enough past this, you can see the abilities based on the characters that you're going to be placing in the first place. And then if we go over to the rule book here, you can start to see additionally some of the resource tokens that you can use to mitigate at the beginning of your turn in order to get additional actions, as well as the placement abilities in those spaces that you're putting down within the districts in the first place. It's actually a lower price point than I originally thought. 35 euros for the base game. I think it's 49 for the expansion included, but I'm not a big fan of this because it adds a new mechanic. You know how I feel about gameplay and player count being thrown together, but that's what the Hunters expansion is doing there. So you can upgrade it if you really want, and frankly speaking, I don't think that plastic looks very good in the first place, so get the regular version. But there you go. That is everything that you need to know in a nutshell about No More Dead New York. Next up, we have Making Monsters, $61,000 as a bag building, build your own monster while not busting style of game as you're trying to reanimate these monsters, and you are forced to do so either if you bust or at your own discretion. What you're going to be doing at the beginning of this game is playing a token that allows you to take a certain number of body parts from the bag. However, if your color, your secondary color, matches the main color of one of your neighbors, then you get the super bonus that goes along with it, or the super action, essentially. You build these monsters in these parts, but as you're pulling parts, there are going to be mutations, there are going to be actual useful parts, there are also all be rotten parts that will start to fill up your reject track, like in an Azul when you break those tiles. However, you're going to be pulling those rot tokens as well from a certain track, which is from a timing situation going to tell you when you end the game and go into the mad scientist phase, which is a completely separate but equally, well, building style of things as you're going along. And you have to reanimate if you bust, but then you're not going to get the bonus points that may go along with this, both in the main phase as well as the mad scientist phase. And at the end of the game, essentially you take all the cards I think that you haven't used, you pull a certain number of them, and then you pull until you go bust again one last time. And it's a mix mash of everything that you might like, and a variety in terms of pulling everything that you'll see here onto a board and rinsing and repeating as you score points off of them. So you want deluxe tokens with it, huge wooden tokens, you can do that, and it's relatively easy to teach and play. So 50 bucks will get you the base game only. as well as the premium, but no deluxified versions of things as a whole. Rulebook is there, and deluxifications galore. Little video content, and that's pretty much it. So Skyline here, doing really well with their first game, 60 grand, give it a look. Next up we have Riftblade, which is kind of like Rift Force, only not, because it's got a little bit of dice thrown in there. Because what you're doing in this deck battling builder, going head to head in dueling mage style, is you're going to be using a combination of cards and dice that are available to you to combo chain based off of iconography, as well as multi-use cards in order to power up the cards that you're playing to combo chain, while still buying more cards to increase your capabilities as you're going along. Dice Throne needs Ascension. I don't know if I get Ascension vibes, but I see where you're going with this. It reminds me in a different way of a few of these other dueling styles, but powerful chaining is the core of this. You're spending your mana in order to trigger those spells, chaining them together based on the combination of the icons at the top in order to do all of the damage that you need to take out your enemy. So you can see here an example of what you've got going on. The purple-green, green-red, and then the purple, which doesn't match it. So then it snaps the chain that happens. And so ordering this is going to be very important. The secondary ability is going to be activated by the Rift Stones as you're using them, because each of these cards will have strengthening at the bottom of them that's going to give you more ability and damage along the way. Now, interestingly enough, though, as another twist with this game, you can trigger cards straight from the pile or the lane itself for a one-time effect that then causes them to be discarded and does not actually affect your existing spell chain in the first place. So if you go down and give it a little bit more card anatomy, upper left-hand corner, those symbols that we mentioned, the upper right-hand is the mana cost, and then at the bottom you have that enhancement that I was talking about with this dark stone that's kind of hard to see here right to the left of my face, is what you're going to be doing as the basic effect that's activated without paying a rune stone. However, if you go down, you can get activated effects by either using the Rift Stones that I mentioned or requiring them to activate subsequently even further with their overcharged abilities in order to do that. And it tells you exactly what you're getting here additionally, so the symbology is relatively straightforward. There are 5 different aspects that you're going to be choosing from in combinatorial situations in the upper left-hand corner, so you're going to be linking them up, and like a Dice Throne, you can even go 2v2 or 3 or 4 person free-for-all. Going back to the page, this is what you're getting, 132 spell cards. I'd hope that they're all unique, but they may not be, and they say this is a living card game in the sense that they're going to be releasing 2 expansions to give additional mechanics, and apparently they've got a bunch in store with releasing content every quarter to go along with their mobile and tabletop here, the Weavings and the Void Spawn as additional aspects. So this is one of those that I'd love to try before buying, because I could see myself loving it or just kind of, I don't know, right? So this is a try before I buy more than anything else, but it's in the line of the things that I kind of like in the first place, so I like talking about it regardless, and they're doing well at 44,000, so give them a look and tell them Leech sent you. Next we have Lone Wolf Vengeance of the Kai, based off of Epic Saga, book form, now with an asymmetrical 2-player strategy game led by leaders and champions using quest-based systems and a card-driven gameplay to, well, do a war game style simulation. Warned though right here, 2 to 3 hours. If you love games like Star Wars Rebellion and War of the Ring, this is in the line of those, in case that description wasn't close enough, as one person takes on the role of the Freeland Alliance, the other takes on the role of the Dark Lord Onslaught, and they give you a little bit of what's going to be done in terms of the gameplay if we skip down over the cost of the game, because it's going to be $99 for one version of it. And so what you've got going on is a 6-round situation, trying to not only play your cards driven by your leaders with your 3 types of action cards available to you to maneuver your troops around, as well as to get set up for the second phase of things, which is more of the quest phase, as you have to get one of 5 quest cards accomplished and utilizing events from the actual series by battling a certain quest-specific enemy using the variety of actions and item cards that I previously mentioned. But the Dark Lord player during that phase can actually increase the difficulty, rinse and refresh, deploy more, and repeat the rounds. You want to know more? Go watch some of the preview content, because Wow, tons of preview content this week. I actually recently found out from one of my publisher friends how much some of those content previews go for. Holy cow, I am in the wrong business. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there and give you a chance to look at the nuances of this game separately, but that is Lone Wolf. Speaking of games that are too complex for me to give you a synopsis of, Europa Universalis is back with a deluxe German edition. I'm just going to leave it there, right? This is a German version of things. So if you're German and you're somehow listening to me and you need this game and you don't have the English copy and you can't speak English, this is great for you. Speaking of no rulebook though, SCUM, an Eclipse Phase board game based on the Eclipse Phase RPG. So how do you play this Core Pledge RPG-esque spacefaring game? Well, that doesn't tell you, just kidding. Narrative, you don't want to know about that. Gameplay, action selection mechanic. Starting by choosing your multi-use card that you get to play either face up or face down, either getting a one-time bonus or dealing with some of the negatives that might be coming your way in the first place. Gain a benefit or defend yourself. Move to a new ship, gain whatever benefits located there, but escalating threat because in this competitive yet cooperative game, you're going to be having to not have the threat run out or everyone is going to lose. And they say now is the real crunch. Enhance your player board, manipulate rep, eliminate threats, and get resources with 4 different actions that you get to choose 2 of on your turn, including that threat we previously mentioned, engaging of your allies, brokers, or machinators, resources, kickbacks, whatever you may need. Assist phase, where you have to, well, figure out how you want to benefit someone else, but also help yourself at the same time. Player board, as they mention here. Blow it up to unleash an epic turn. I have no clue. So, end game, there you go. Players defeat Mastermind, Mastermind defeats players, get the most renown. That's the game. You're going to have to go watch a video of some of the preview content to see whether or not you can get more from it from that aspect. So again, I just like to see more of the nuance in the rule book, and so maybe we'll have one by the end of the campaign as well with this one, but give it a look-see. It's loose in the library. Again, 4 ways to play as you slowly sort of set collect, if you will, with characters from famous books and literary situations that you're familiar with. There are 3 progressively more complicated modes as well as a solo version. Family friendly, it's just collecting sets, and that's really all you do. Draw up and get them to match. Okay, great. Chapter 2, introduce negative points. Get what you want, but it's going to cost you. Chapter 3, draft instead of draw. And Chapter 4, solo. I don't know. That's it. That's literally pretty much everything, except again, if you watch video content. So what's the price point for this? Print and play is $14 and the regular version is $26. So loose in the library. And then similarly, Stakeout Detective. You can watch a Rado video as well to give you a little bit more lowdown with a more Euro-esque style dice placement game as you're trying to wrap up 3 cases in order to win. As you roll your dice, place them on the emergent storytelling options that you're given, having one-time ability cards to match and to mitigate, and rinse and repeat as you go around trying to outdo your opponents. So, like it says here, roll dice, investigate by placing the dice on there. You get them by putting all your dice down there that match, have some bonuses and hot tips to outmaneuver and, well, discard to basically go big or go home and get your own personal leads that no one else can get. Sort of a splendor, put your gold coin on it to grab it so no one else can. In order to finally close the case, get enough of those ones that we previously mentioned in order to do so. Again, a little deluxeification in terms of add-ons and a 1 playthrough video on top of Rados. So again, it's got an interesting theme, so Lamplight Games, give it a look. And then last but not least here, Notebook Knockout, Tabletop Battle Royale. It's just a heads up, take that style of game of choosing 2 cards face down simultaneously, flipping them over, going in sequential order of what gets done first, and trying to knock out other people in an incredibly head-to-head take that style of game. Because you play a target card as well as an action card, one of 6 potentially, I think, different actions that are available to you, defending yourself, attacking, upgrading, equipping, all of those things along the line. And the phase system that you can see here is you're revealing all of these cards, potions, treasures, followed by magic, followed by blocking, followed by attacking, followed by healing, followed by discarding. And so you can target yourself, all players, an opponent, or just one player alone. And last one standing wins. That's the game from Paper Frog. Get additional little content here that's going to be included with some extra stretch goals. And you're getting a little bit of an expansion to go along with that if you really like, as more targets, more arenas to offer some variability in your actual gameplay, as well as new action cards to be added alongside. $30, $45, or $65. And if you want to spend $100, that's a whole heck of a lot of stuff. Although that text is completely unreadable on this page when you're looking at it. I mean, look at this. You can read the crashing waves here, but you know, if you design that, come on, I can tap this and do this, and that works. But yeah, standard copy, dice pack, backers promo, thank you card, and you get the role in the Discord server. Anyway, I don't like blowing that up, but that'll tell you at least a little bit of what it's got going on, and that's everything. So there you go, Paper Frog Studios, we're done. Crowdfunding, I told you, a ton of stuff, a little bit of everything across the board, although dungeon crawls and darker themes are apparently the rage now, but including miniatures with those, and that's where we see the cash being thrown all over the place. Wishlist, another review. I'll have a video out for the Aqua Garden, the Garden Trilogy, whatever you want to call it, soon. I've got something else upcoming as well. Oh, this one behind me. No, not you, Bluey, but the White Castle Duel. A couple new upcoming Essen releases that I'll be covering. Dirt and Dust, as well as, what was the other one I just played today? Oh, Guildlands. And then I'll have another video that's just talking about some of those in a nutshell, of letting you know everything that's come to me and I'll be talking about, or that you might be seeing in the near future. So a little bit of everything. As always, thanks for watching, subscribing. We just hit 15K. I just all of a sudden noticed. I don't really know when it happened, but recently. So I appreciate it. And you know what I'd also appreciate? Patreon. Patreon, or I need to finish up doing my coffee so that people can just do there instead, because I know that's easier sometimes. That's all I got. Stay classy. Have a great freaking day. Peace out.